Hey everyone, Pastor Eric here. This is a bit of a bonus session and a recent sermon on the weekends. It was about the wisdom of God and how God shares his wisdom with us and how we can become increasingly wise people. And during that sermon, I edited out an entire section for the sake of time and promised everyone that I would push out a video here in the next several days. So that is this. And the reason I wanted to do this is because that section of the teaching I thought would be particularly helpful for young people. So if you are in middle school or high school, college age, young adult, I don't know how old you have to be to not consider yourself a young adult anymore, but if you still consider yourself a young adult, then this is for you. If you are not in any of those categories, you are welcome to watch this. Some things here would be applicable to you, but this is particular for those of us on the younger side of the spectrum. And here's why. If you are a teenager, young adult, you're still at that life stage where you're trying to get your feet under you. You're still trying to figure some things out, learn the ropes. And you might be thinking, I wish that there was a book of the Bible that was written specifically for me in my current life stage. And I've got good news for you. There is a book of the Bible that was written specifically for you, specifically for young people. It's the book of Proverbs, and it is loaded with wisdom specifically for young people. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 to 7. This is how the whole book of Proverbs starts. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for gaining wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair, for giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning. Let the discerning get guidance for understanding proverbs and parables, for sayings and riddles of the wise. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. The whole book of Proverbs is set up as a book of wisdom for young people. I want to read you those same verses here from the Message translation of the Bible. I would not, by the way, recommend you use the Message for your daily Bible reading or your Bible study, but every once in a while, the way the Message says it strikes you differently. So listen to how it says it, the same verses I just read in the Message. These are the wise sayings of Solomon, David's son, Israel's king, written down so we'll know how to live well and right, to understand what life means and where it's going. A manual for living, for learning what's right and just and fair, to teach the inexperienced the ropes, to give our young people a grasp on reality. There's something here also for seasoned men and women, still a thing or two for the experienced to learn, fresh wisdom to probe and penetrate the rhymes and reasons of wise men and women. Start with God. The first step in learning is bowing down to God. Only fools thumb their noses at such wisdom and learning. The book of Proverbs is a book of wisdom for young people. Now, you start with, the Proverbs says to start with an acknowledgement of God, that this is God's world, that he created everything and he knows how he created the world to work. And so the extent to which we can make choices that align ourselves with the way God created things to work, the better our lives are. So the book of Proverbs is a collection of sayings, most of them really short, 2 lines or 4 lines, in a variety of practical areas of our lives. And the whole idea here is that these are the general rules for how God created the world to work. So Proverbs are, generally speaking, if you behave this way or you make this decision, generally speaking, this is what comes from that. So, it is, as you explore the book of Proverbs, it's wisdom for your life. And it's super practical. So I have an idea for you. And that's why I wanted to shoot this video. And once again, this is primarily for teenagers, young adults, but if you're on the older side of things, this might be helpful for you as well. So you could go through the book of Proverbs and you could create yourself a guidebook for your life. And here's what I mean by this. I wrote down a bunch of topics that I was interested in. I did this a while ago, different practical areas of my life. And then what I did was I went through Proverbs and I color-coded Proverbs. So, for example, money, financial management, So I wrote down money, and every time I came across a proverb in the book of Proverbs that had anything to do with money, how you handle money, financial management, anything that had to do with money, I highlighted it in green. Then I also did the categories, I called it words, so anything that has to do with how we talk or our speech. Work, which I know a lot of you young adults are trying to figure out work and vocation. Sexuality, anything that has to do with sex, sexuality, romantic relationships. Friends was another category. Time management, decision making, business, foolishness. This was a fun category for me. So I went through Proverbs and highlighted in a specific color everything in the book of Proverbs that it describes as foolish or the behavior of fools. I also had a category called pride and humility. The book of Proverbs has a lot to say about that. And then I did a category called other stuff, which was just stuff I wasn't thinking about that I thought, oh, that's really interesting. So there's a color in this little book of Proverbs that I have here, color-coded with other stuff. So what you can do is, if money's green, go through, read through Proverbs, everything has to do with money, highlight it in green, and just start using different colors for different topics. And what you'll end up with is a color-coded guidebook for your life that you can keep going back to when you're trying to make decisions or figure things out. How do I live a wise life? Proverbs has a lot to say about that. It's just an idea I wanted to give you guys. Now, I also know this. I did it old school in a printed copy of the book of Proverbs, but I also know a lot of you are using this for your Bible. So my guess is most of you use the YouVersion Bible app. I know for a fact that the YouVersion Bible app allows you to highlight in a variety of colors. So just wanted to suggest that to you, and also point out, you may not have even been aware that there's an entire book of the Bible that was actually written for young people who are trying to get their feet under them and learn the ropes. So one final thought here, and then I'll be done. Proverbs come at you in short little sayings. So at the first few chapters of Proverbs, they're a little bit longer as it's setting the whole thing up, but the Proverbs come at you in 2 lines or 4 lines. And what you'll notice is that for every proverb, it either says the same thing twice or it says the opposite thing, and that's where you get the meaning from the proverb. So the proverb I used in the sermon was Proverbs 13:20, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So you have 2 lines there, walk with the wise and become wise. And then the second line is a companion of fools suffers harm. So it's saying the opposite thing to make the point, which is choose your friends wisely, right? So walk with the wise, you become wise, companion of fools suffers harm. So most of the time what Proverbs do is they either say something and then say the exact opposite thing to make the point, or it says something and then it says the same kind of thing a second way. So that's generally how the Proverbs work. They're pretty easy to understand. Every once in a while you come across a proverb and you're like, I don't really know what that's getting at. But, if you have a study Bible, or you can Google, what a proverb means, and you'll get to the answer. But wanted to let you know that there is a book of the Bible for you if you are young, teenager, young adult. It's called the Book of Proverbs. You get a lot of wisdom for your life. It's super practical. So I want to give you the idea of color coding the Book of Proverbs. If you're older and you're watching this, it's still a good idea for you. We're always learning and growing. And specifically for the young people of our church, want to let you know that we love you. Have a great day, everyone.